when you guys are trying to find the sum of a finite arithmetic series, so remember, finite means that you know the end of the series. You know where it's stopping. You know what term it's stopping at. If you guys are trying to find a sum, that means if you know the terms are 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, you want to know, okay, what are all of those terms added together? What's the total going to be? So if you guys are trying to find that, the sum of however many terms you have is going to be equal to the term number, which is n, times your first term plus your last term divided by 2. So if you need to take notes of what each are, you can do that. But remember, a sub 1 is your first term, a sub n is your last term. And the n is your actual term number. So just remember not to get confused, guys, about the term number and the term value. So a sub 1 and a sub n are the term values. So for number 10, it says find the sum of the first 18 terms of this arithmetic series 100 plus 110 plus 120 plus 130. So the difference from 100 to 110, the difference here is positive 10 or plus 10. And it wants us to find the sum of the first 18 terms. So the first thing we need to do is find the rule so that we can find the 18th term. So I'm just going to plug in what I know. And I know the first term, which is 100. I know the difference is 10. And that's really all you need. So 10 times n is 10n minus 1 is negative 10. So 100 minus 10 is going to give us 90. So 10n plus 90 is your rule. So, okay. Then you need to find the 18th term. Well, now that you have the rule, all you have to do is, it's just a matter of substituting it in. So 18 is going to be our input. So 10 times 18 plus 90 gives us 270. So the 18th term equals 270. So now that you have that last term, you'll be able to add up every single term or find the sum of all 18 terms. So we'll just write this as S sub 18 equals, okay, we want 18 terms, so 18 times the sum of your first term, which is 100. Hold on. Needed to make some more room there. So 100 plus your 18th term, which would be 270, divided by 2. So 370 divided by 2 times 18 is going to give us 3,330. So the sum of your first 18 terms, all together, added up, is going to be 3,330. So as long as you have your first term and the term that you're ending with, you guys should be good to go with being able to find the sum of your series. So for number 11, we've got an application problem here, and it says that you're making a house of cards, and it gives you a little image there. It says, write a rule for the number of cards in the nth row if the top row is row 1. So it's giving you the first row. So the first row here, guys, is made up of 1, 2, 3 cards. Okay, well then how many is your second row made up of? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards. And then what about your third row? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So the rows are essentially your term numbers, and you guys can see that from 3 to 6 to 9, the difference is 3. And your first term, or row 1, has 3 cards. So if you guys are trying to write this rule, you would say, okay, well, a sub n equals your first term, which is those 3 cards, plus the difference, which from row to row, it's a difference of 3. You're adding 3 each time, times n minus 1. So a sub n equals 3 plus 3n minus 3. So 3 minus 3 is just going to give us 0. So you could write this as 0 plus 3n, or you could just leave it as 3n. Either one would be fine. Okay, well then it asks, well, what's the total number of cards if the house of cards has 14 rows? So if you would have made a house with 14 rows instead of the 3 shown here, how many would it contain, or how many cards would it contain? So the first thing you need to do is find, okay, well, what would the number of cards be in at least that 14th row? Because you need that last term. So we need to find a sub 14, which equals, since we have our rule, just 3 times 14. And 3 times 14 is going to be 42 cards. So that's not how many cards are in the house. It's saying, okay, 42 cards in the 14th row of your house. So now that we have that, now we can find the sum of all 14 rows, which would make up the entire house. So S sub 14 equals your term number, so 14 rows, times your first term, still have 3 cards in that top row, plus the last row, in this case we found that to be 42 cards, divided by 2. So we end up with 45 divided by 2 times 14, which gives us 315 cards. So if you had a house with 14 rows, it would be made up of 315 cards, which means you would need a couple of decks.